we are from Group 5 and we are here to talk about post-colonialism theory in drama. Our group members include me, Eugenia, Yosi, Laura, Vira, and Hendry. Please enjoy!
Postcolonial drama is the first full-length study to address the way in which performance has been instrumental in resisting the continuing effects of imperialism. It brings to bear the late theoretical approach from postcolonial and performance study to a range of plays from Australia, Africa, Canada, New Zealand, the Caribbean, and the other former colonial regions.
Hi, so now I'm going to explain the next part, which will be the historical context. So, what happened first was the British, particularly from writer Rudyard Kipling, called the British colonization as the white man's burden. This means that they took colonization as a duty from God to civilize and Christianize people whom they thought incapable of governing themselves. And then Britain's empire was really big, it was enormous, and that it simply didn't have the resources to stem the rise of the nationalist movements. All this made the theory emerge. It urges a studied engagement with colonialism experience along with its past and present effects. Next, let's talk about the history of the theory, post-colonialism theory, history, and how it emerged. In 1978, Edward Said had written Orientalism, a text examining the relationship between the ones in the West and the others in the East. The work has become a sort of staple in post-colonial theory. This work shows how no form of intellectual or cultural activity is innocent of power hierarchies. It highlights the collusion between literary representation and colonial power. So the main idea is that every branch of knowledge is a part of the establishment of European political hegemony. This is through the process of colonial domination. Okay, so now you might wonder, what is post-colonialism theory now? So, decades after the publication of Orientalism, the theory has developed into some sort of a big academic discipline. It covers the whole world, and it began after the process of colonization had started, which was from the 18th and 19th centuries.
Next, we're going to talk about term in the theory in post-colonialism. First, we have wording. Wording is the process by which a person, family, culture, or people is brought into the dominant Eurocentric or Western global society. Second, we have hegemony. Hegemony is the power of the ruling class to convince other classes that their interests are the interests of all, and often not only through means of economic and political control, but more subtly through the control of education and media. Third is hybridity. Hybridity is new transcultural forms that arise from the cross-cultural exchange, like social, political, linguistic, and religious. Fourth is identity. Identity is the way in which an individual and/or group defines itself. Identity is important to self-concept, social mores, and national understanding that often involves both essentialism and othering. Fifth is ideology. According to Bortwell and Thompson, ideology is a system of values, beliefs, or ideas shared by some social group and often taken for granted as natural or inherently true. Six is language. Language has often become a site for both colonization and resistance. Seven, we have alterity. Alterity is the study of the ways in which one group makes themselves different from others. So it is like the state of being other or different. For the example, like the political, cultural, linguistic, or religious other. 8 is diaspora. Diaspora is the voluntary or enforced migration of peoples from their native homelands. Diaspora literature is often concerned with questions of maintaining or altering identity, language, and culture while in another culture or country. And last is ethnicity. Ethnicity often deeply related to a person's identity, and it is a fusion of traits that belong to a group, such as shared values, beliefs, norms, tastes, behaviors, experiences, memories, and loyalties.
Next, we have prominent figures from the post-colonialism theory. They are Homi Bhabha, Gayatri Spivak, and also Edward Said. The first one we want to learn is about Homi Bhabha. Homi Bhabha in the Empire writes back in 1989, more focused on the colonized point of view, where does they belong because they doesn't have sense of belonging in either culture, leading to a state of unhomeliness and double conciseness. And the term hybridity has been most recently associated with the work of Homi Bhabha itself, whose analysis of colonizer or the colonized relation stresses their interdependence and the mutual construction of their subjectivities. He contends that all cultural statements and systems are constructed in a space that he calls the third space of enunciation. Hybridity has frequently been used in post-colonial discourse to mean simply cross-cultural exchange. This use of the term has been widely criticized, since it usually implies negating and neglecting the imbalance and inequality of the power relation where it references. By stressing the transformative cultural, linguistics, and also political impacts on both the colonized and the colonizer, it has been regarded as replicating assimilationist policies by masking or white masking cultural differences. The idea of hybridity itself also underlies other attempts to stress the mutuality of cultures in the colonial and post-colonial process in expressions of syncreticity, cultural synergy, and also transculturation, and the criticism of the term referred to above stems from the perception that theories that stress mutuality necessarily downplay oppositionality and increase continuing post-colonial dependence. There is, however, nothing in this theory, in this idea of hybridity as such, that suggests that mutuality negates the hierarchy nature of the imperial process, or that it involves the idea of an equal exchange. The second one we have Gayatri Spivak, and her theory is called key terms or key theory. So we want to learn about the glossary in key terms in Spivak's works. The first is ethical responsibility or ethical singularity. The usage of word responsibility, like her dialogic understanding of speaking, it signifies that ethics are not just a problem of knowledge, but a call to a relationship. And the ideal relationship is individual and intimate. This is what she means by ethical singularity, the engagement of the other in non-essential, non-crisis terms. The second one is margins or outside. Spivak's works explores the margins at which disciplinary discourses break down and enter the world of political agency. She interrogates the politics of culture from a marginal perspective. Outside, through deconstruction, she turns the hegemonic narratives inside out, and as a third world woman in a position of privilege in the American academy, she brings the outside in. The third one is strategic essentialism. In her second interview, in the Boundary second interview, Spivak wistfully pronounced that of the two things she is best known for, both are often misunderstood. And the first was her answer to the question, can the subaltern speak? And then the second one is the notion of strategic essentialism. The next one is subaltern. Spivak achieved a certain degree for her 1985 article, which title is Can the Subaltern Speak? Speculation on Widow's Sacrifice. In it, she describes the circumstances surrounding the suicide of a young Bengali woman that indicates a failed attempt at self-representation because her attempts at speaking outside normal patriarchal channel was not understood or supported. And Spivak concludes that the subaltern cannot speak. Her extremely nuanced argument, admittedly confounded by her, led some incautious readers to accuse her of phallocentric complicity, of not recognizing or even not letting the subaltern speak. Some critics, missing the points, buttressed their arguments with anecdotal evidence of message cried out by burning widows, and her point was not that the subaltern doesn't cry out in various ways, but that speaking is a transaction between speaker and listener. So subaltern talk, in other words, doesn't achieve the dialogic level of utterance. The last figure here we have Edward Said, and his theory was called Orientalism in 19th century, or exactly in 1978. He argued that Europeans justified their colonial conquest through the concept of Orientalism, the creation of non-European stereotypes that suggested so-called Orientals were indolent, thoughtless, sexually immoral, unreliable, and also undemented. And it is true that Edward Said was not the first to write on and criticize Western Orientalism, and as he himself admits in his article Orientalism Reconsidered, published in Diana Bryden's Post-Colonialism. However, in Orientalism, said by most accounts, revolutionized the literary field and laid the ground for this theory, post-colonialism theory, and creating an unprecedented dispute in the academic circle in the West and East alike. So According to the economist, Orientalism translated into dozens of languages became a foundation text for a great boom in post-colonial theory studies. So Orientalism, together with his later works, represents side-ferment commitment to speaking truth through power, to uncovering the grave oppression and persecution and practice against the colonized people by imperialism and colonial discourse. He describes the way that imperial West has always seen the Orient and how this view is obviously not only in many texts written by early travelers and explorers, but also in important literary works and also prominent writers, because there would be no limit to the narrative history of Orientalism. Said emphasize in his study on the Anglo-French American experience of the Arabs and Islam, which for almost 1,000 years together stood for this Orient. And in this sense, Said defines Orientalism as a distribution of geopolitical awareness into aesthetic, scholarly discovery, philological reconstruction, psychological analysis, landscape and sociological description. So that's about what we do and what they do and what they cannot do. And he argued that what has been written about the East is no more than false assumptions upon which the Western attitudes towards the East were built, and justifying and also encouraging the European and American colonial and imperial behavior towards the Arab and Islamic peoples and also their cultures.
Okay, so the next one is how to analyze drama with post-colonial theory. So, post-colonial analysis theory mostly aims to an issue in the colonialism history. For example, power, race, and identity. But actually, there are a lot of aspects that included in the colonialism history. So, to analyze using the post-colonial theory, you have to search in the drama for an aspect that related to some of the issue in the post-colonial theory. For example, in this slide that are shown, some of the aspects that you have to be aware of: power, race, and identity. These are some of the aspects that is commonly appear on the post-colonial analysis. So after finding those aspects in the drama, you will have to connect it to the history of colonialism and see if there are any relation to the post-colonial aspect you found. If yes, then explain what kind of aspect it is and how did those aspects be developed in the drama. In this way, you will have an analysis of a drama that based on a post-colonial theory. Okay, so I think that's it for our group presentation. Thank you very much for watching this presentation, and we hope that this presentation can be useful to all of you. Thank you very much.